Okay, welcome to part 3. I took my glasses off. I have notes beside me on the computer to keep me on track, but the anti-glare from my glasses was causing all of these green dots, and I know I could see them. I don't know if you could. It was driving me nuts. So here I am without my glasses, maybe a little squinty, but that's okay. Coming in on part 3 to talk about my diagnosis with Lyme disease. I was also diagnosed with Bartonella and clinically with Babesia as well. So for me, I was bitten in April 2014. I was diagnosed in March 2016. So basically 2 years. In that time, we had done a lot. I knew something was wrong within about 4 months for sure after I was bitten. I was a little bit of a slow burn at first. And then in 2015 is when it really spiraled. It wasn't just random joint pain. It was migratory swelling under my skin, like sore throat. I developed a heart murmur, chest pains, intermittent reoccurring fevers without really an explanation. Honestly, it's like there was so much. Like I'd honestly be better off to refer you back to a blog post where I list it all off because there's just a lot of stuff. In that, I guess one thing I think would be really important to say if you're kind of watching this and you were wondering if this is something you might have too, you're questioning a Lyme diagnosis, one thing that was really helpful for me to organize all of those symptoms because there were so many and they were kind of all over the place. If you just Google the Dr. Horowitz, it's like a Lyme, is it a questionnaire? He arranges all the symptoms, categorizes them, and then gives you a scale to rate them on. I found that really helpful for just categorizing all my symptoms, and then also giving them a scale of severity and then bringing it to doctor's appointments is really helpful as well. So just on a little aside, if you're in that diagnosis season of all of this, that's a really helpful tool. Sorry. So we're going into 2016. We don't have any answers. I've seen mostly rheumatologists at this point, but no one had anything concrete. So we go to the Mayo Clinic. We're hoping that this is the place, like the holy grail of medicine, where we're finally going to know what's wrong. Being from Canada, that was something we had to pay for out of pocket. So I was there for 4 days, and it was almost $40,000. I didn't come home with any answers, so it was incredibly disheartening. I think we also held like a really high expectation for the Mayo Clinic, and all I came out of that with was a doctor saying, we think it's an autoimmune disease, but it just hasn't fully manifested, so we can't figure out what it is. But at this point, like, I couldn't stand up on my own. I was still walking, but it was slow. I needed Stephen's help for getting dressed, a lot of just daily activities. So when they said it's just something autoimmune, but we can't figure it out yet, I was like, how much further does this have to go for you to be able to tell me what's wrong? So we actually had come home really discouraged. Later that night, Stephen was in bed. We were both kind of Googling. So at that point in your season, that's what you're doing. You're searching and you're searching and you're searching. So he's Googling and he comes across this blog. Someone mentioned Lyme disease and they actually were talking about where they think they got it. And the place that they referenced is actually a sheep farm, maybe 25 kilometers from where we live. So we look a little bit more about Lyme disease. We rented the Under Our Skin documentary on iTunes. So if that's also something, if you're in that season of kind of trying to get a diagnosis and trying to learn, those documentaries are really, really great. And I also always have suggested them for friends and family who are trying to understand what you're going through. But in watching that, it was really clear, like Mandy, one of the people that was followed in that documentary, it was like watching myself in a mirror. Like I was so similar to her. So at this point we thought, okay, we know what's wrong. So I went to iLads. I got a list of Lyme literate doctors, kind of started narrowing it down, calling like the top 5 places that I was thinking I would go to. I found out about the IGeneX test, my doctor was willing to sign the lab rec for it. So we did that, had it mailed into Ontario, had it drawn, sent back. I was hospitalized in that small window in between, but in the end, it came back and it was a positive result. And because I had contacted iLads and kind of found the path I wanted to go with a doctor, I had my first doctor's appointment set up it was basically a week after I got my results back from my genics. So that was my journey to a diagnosis.